right, Phil, I'm super excited about this episode. We've got an incredible guest on the show today, and this is a guy that I had a little bit, of convincing to become a listener of the pod. He was a little hesitant. He's a big podcast junkie, but, I've known him for a long time. And he said, well, Steve, I don't know about your podcast. Let me give it a chance, I guess. And then he's about 20 episodes in. He's like, damn, I really like it. So we've got a fan on today. And Erik Anderson, I appreciate you listening to the show, man. And you've got an incredible story. I'm excited for this episode to dive into to your life personally, professionally. And you've got an incredible shirt on today. If anyone's watching YouTube, Erik has a black and white floral collar shirt, much more dressed up than us. Where are you right now? You're in California, aren't you?
Yeah, we're in Temecula. My nephew is getting married this weekend, so we're here for the wedding. And my shirt just happened to match the painting on the wall in the hotel room. So
that was not planned, right? You didn't plan that?
It was not planned, but I actually was going to change it until I saw that. And then I was like, nope, I'm leaving it on.
That's awesome. My grandparents used to live in Temecula. They had an avocado ranch out there. Great area.
It's beautiful.
When we were kids growing up, it was the coolest thing. We used to run around the hills of Temecula, and it was a good time. But the weddings are the best, man. I love going to weddings.
Yeah, it is so beautiful here. Like, having spent time here as a kid, I'm sure that was a lot of fun, other than you wish they grew strawberries instead of avocados.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't even like avocados back then. Now I love them.
Sure.
I was like, I totally didn't take advantage when I was a kid. But you'd
rather be running around the vineyards out there. That's where you'd rather be.
Gorgeous. Hey, but by the way, I want to back up because you said you had to convince me to listen to your podcast. That is so not true. I immediately was like, oh, I'll check it out. I listen to podcasts all the time, and I immediately liked it. And I thought I had listened to about 6 episodes, and I ran into you 2 weeks ago. And I was like, wait, no, I'd listened to 19. And now I'm at like 50.
You went on a tear. That was just like 2 weeks ago when you told me that.
I did like straight, that's all I listened to for a week. So
that's awesome.
I wanted to get to know Phil better, and I was like, I know we met Phil, I think, at Michael's
at Capstone Contributes? Was that it?
Yes, Capstone.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was too. And yeah, we got to chat. We were packing bags back to back.
That is so great, by the way. That is a lot of fun. And Michael was an amazing guy. I've actually known him longer than I've known you, Steven, because he worked in the bar business when I was a investor in bars. So
I was doing some digging. Was American Junkie yours?
Yeah. So when I say it was mine, right, 8% of it. So it wasn't mine. I was an investor, a guy that in my fraternity was a great bar operator. Started in Vegas. In fact, you should have him on the show if you can get him. But he offered me a piece of it, and it was awesome. It was a great investment, actually, which is not always the case with bars. So,
right, I definitely want to double click on that. We spent a lot of time at American Junkie back in the day.
Oh, that's funny. I should probably
it was an Ohio State bar, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Wait, you went to Michigan though?
No. I went to Arizona State.
Oh, okay. But you're from Michigan?
From Missouri.
Same Missouri, Michigan, Montana.
That's what everyone says. Somewhere in the center of the country with a lot of corn.
So American Junkie, I remember going there in college for sure. That was like a staple in Old Town Scottsdale. So you had a small piece of that. Did it fall into your lap, or how did that happen?
Well, so my fraternity brother from college, Ryan Jacques is his name. I think he started out either as like a bouncer or a bartender at some bars in Vegas, and then met some people along the way. They backed him. He started opening. He did Pussycat Lounge, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
Junkie. There was a bar in Venice called Nicky's, Venice Beach, California. There was several others in Old Town, but I'm so old that I forgot all of their names now.
That's why this is a blast from the past. Anytime we're back down there and something turns over, which I'd love to hear your thoughts on, it's like, the operating model, right? It's like, let's buy a number of these, and as Scottsdale gets bored, let's tear down the inside somewhat, maybe do some restructure, and then get everyone's attention again and bring this new concept and see how much we can make.
And that's exactly what it was. Scottsdale had a longer tail, but Ryan's model was you turn it every 3 years. You have to make all your money back. in those 3 years to turn. But I mean, because they lasted longer back then, at least here, probably not in Las Vegas, but you're able to go 5 to 8 years, still being the hot spot. And Junkie was for, I don't know, 3 years probably.
It really was, yeah.
We probably, I'm sure we crossed paths because, part of the investment was I had to spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, that's how they got you.
I'm sure you had some stories, spending a lot of time there, and maybe we won't get into those. But
well, as a partial owner, and Ryan always let me say I was the owner, even though I was just a fraction.
Yeah, that's cool.
Several investors, but I didn't realize how much I was a lot funnier and a lot better looking because I
as the owner versus
yes,
not.
Yes, like everything I said was funny. I was very popular, and then I was like, oh wait, I'm actually not that cool. People want to get in because there's lines out front, and
that's
on those Saturday mornings, it was a cheap place to buy people drinks as the owner because I think they were 50 cents or something an hour before game day. There was some nuance there, and it was a mess.
Well, I'll tell you what, like that, if you're young and single, that is a great investment. Like if you do it with Ryan, I would say, I don't know that everybody has that experience, but I would not enjoy it at my age now, like being married with a child. Like it would just be like, other than just collecting checks, it would just be like, I don't want to go there,
Yeah. So what was that? So you had an exit, or how did it stop? And then did you reinvest into something else after? Or?
No, I exited in, so it started to open in 2008. I think I exited around 11 or 12. I don't remember specifically, but that was because I was a real estate investor and I was highly leveraged. When the market started to take that decline after 2008, like I actually needed the money because I was highly leveraged and I was losing properties. So it was not the best experience.
Yeah, that was a tough time for a lot of real estate agents for sure. And you had there were some valleys there. We've had some conversations about that, but share some a little bit of stories about that time and how now you're wildly successful, doing a lot of great things, and there's some time has passed. But what was that like, man? Like from your perspective, going through that and then picking yourself back up and getting back on the path?
It was really tough, and it's funny when I listen to your podcast now. I think, gosh, I wish I would have had these tools at that point because, like, I was at that point. It was like you have a perfect credit score and you have all this income coming in from rental properties, short-term, long-term rental properties, and then all of that dries up because the market's collapsing, nobody's traveling, so you have tens of thousands of dollars in mortgages and not enough money to support them anymore. And it was really hard on my ego, to be honest. It was like I did not handle it well. I mean, I was a much younger man, but it's funny. I think the only thing I had listened to at that point was probably Tony Robbins because he existed at that point. And it was like, I wish I would have had the tools that you offer your listeners, because I think that would have helped me. It would have helped me not bury my head in the sand and probably could have stopped some of the bleeding sooner.
It's funny. I feel like Tony's the gateway drug to this world of personal development for a lot of people, and I think you nailed it because he was the guy. I mean, I think he learned from Brian Tracy's Zig Ziglar, which were kind of one of ones too, but he really created this information sharing on how we're kind of operating from an emotional and mental state, like taking a look in the mirror on that. And he created, I think a lot of the industry can be attributed to him. So it's funny that you bring him up right at the gate.
I mean, it's funny because there wasn't as much available, or maybe there was, and I just wasn't paying attention. But I had to really start from scratch, and zero credit, and that was probably around 12 or 13, where I'm like, okay, I bottomed out, got to get back in the game, and I think I borrowed like $10,000 from somebody. I did a fix and flip. And literally it was how I would take all the profits and like go buy more properties. And I had to use hard money because my credit was destroyed. So it was like, it was really expensive money, but as long as I turned them quickly, it would multiply. And I had a partner for a while, and then we decided to kind of do separate things because I was we got a fourplex at one point, and I'm like, wait, so I can rehab each one of these while I'm getting rent from the other three, so I can drag this out longer and still get some income out of it. And then I was like, wait, fourplex, then I got an eightplex, then I got a 16plex. Literally, it was just like double. And then I had several complexes spread out, and I just consolidated into like larger buildings. So I think the biggest one I ever bought was like 237 units.
Wow. Now, was the Sky Harbor Inn one?
Yeah. Have you ever visited?
Dude, that was like right when you and I met was when you were still operating that. That building.
That's right. Yeah, because your company started doing my payroll.
Yeah, and I came in. I can't remember who the gal was, but I came in. You weren't there that day, but I came in and I was like for payroll training. It was like right when we first started our business. I think we were introduced by a friendly banker, Sarah Coyne.
You're right. It was Sarah.
And that's how we got connected. And then you ended up selling that one. That was your biggest property, right? The Sky Harbor Inn?
Yeah, that was the biggest, and sold that. And real estate in Arizona, you don't generally have to be a genius. You just have to hang on, and it generally just goes one direction. And I shouldn't say that because that's not always true, but it's been my experience. And you know how dumb I am, so you're like, hey,
no, it's not true. But you do. I think you did make a good point. Like you hear this a lot, or maybe you don't, but we talk about it a lot. If you just don't stop, like if you just continue going and continue pushing through and continue the drive, it usually ends up working out well for you in the end. It's when you stop is when you'll never find out what you're capable of or what that success was at the end of the tunnel. So I think you nailed it. Like you just continue pushing towards your goals, and eventually it'll, or hopefully, work out.
And you're absolutely right. And that was part of, to my point earlier about, instead of being down and out and depressed and feeling bad because, you're having to default on loans and give properties back. Like I could have handled it in a more positive way that would have probably unwound faster and better. So where were you? You guys were probably in junior high.
And that's what I kind of wanted to get to, because what you just described is a whole playbook now, right?
Yeah.
There's people building courses on it, but you were ahead of the game. I went down the rabbit hole of, man, I had my first condo, which was a rental property. I'm like, oh, if I would have only bought at least a duplex, right? Because you live in one, you don't have the restrictions of a family or needing all these things. Right. It just makes so much sense. And now there's a whole playbook of individuals trying to do what you did. But I wanted to kind of take it back to your, let's go back to college or even before that, how you wound up going down the real estate path, because a lot of the things you're saying are like just a part of the school of hard knocks and just growing after you have picked a lane. So how'd you wind up in real estate in the kind of first place?
Well, gosh, that is how many episodes do we have?
we can go.
We can cut this into 3 or 4 if we need to.
No, I know you only have till 2. So anyway, yeah, there was 2 books I read when I must have been like around 23 and it wasn't necessarily that this was the path I was going to follow or be on, but I was always, from the time I could remember, 5, 7 years old, collecting things, right? I was collecting coins and stamps and comic books and it was weird. It was always this calculation of, well, see this Superman from 1942 is worth $100,000. So if I just save all my comic books, I'll be rich when I'm old. And it's weird. I just always had it. So real estate was a really good entree just for side investment income that will deliver long-term wealth. And it was I read 2 books and maybe it was just because those were my values anyway, but it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
Robert Kiyosaki, who I've now actually gotten to know through my attorney, which is awesome.
That's cool.
So maybe we can get him on your podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, and then the other was, I think it was, I might get the name wrong, but Napoleon Hill. I think
Think and Grow Rich.
It wasn't that one. It was The Millionaire Next Door. I don't remember who the author. But anyway, it was just about, it's in fact, you guys covered in one of your podcasts with when you were talking about Charlie Munger, how he stayed in his house. Mm-hmm. And by the way, that's a whole nother level of conservatism, but drive the car that you can afford and take all that money and invest it in long-term wealth, right? And that was what that Millionaire Next Door was. Hey, drive the 20-year-old car or 10-year-old car that's paid for versus what we used to call, what do you call them? The apartment millionaires in Scottsdale.
$30,000 millionaire?
Yes. Yeah. So you drive the Mercedes, but you're renting an apartment. That model just, it didn't float with me. And I followed that path, and I was like, so yeah, I definitely did not have a nice car for many, many years.
Learn a quick learner. Actually took the knowledge and did something with it.
Most people read books and then forget about what they just read. So you implement
go lease the BMW. Yeah,
I think it was because it was something I was passionate about. Just like you guys are very passionate about what you do. I think it was something that clicked with me, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I enjoyed it. I'm like, hey, I think I was in high school and I heard it was a quote from somebody. I think it was the person with the highest IQ in the world at the time. Being interviewed, and they asked her, hey, what's the most powerful concept or something? And she said, compound interest. And I was like, yeah, most people don't understand that. But if you figure that out and you're like, hey, if I buy this property and it goes up 8% a year, and it's not just 8% a year, it's compounding, right?
That's 8% of the previous year's value. Yeah.
That's a lot of money. And I would tell anybody that. I try to teach my nephews, real estate, compound interest, and I think you just have to be excited about it. So, and I don't think a lot of people are.
We've had a lot of conversations about that. How is it not one of the most fundamental things we're taught in high school? Even go back to middle school.
You're right.
Personal finance, sure. Yeah. But even that, we didn't learn that. But just drive home compounding interest. And I think the world would be a much different place if it were as required as taking Spanish, which is also probably pretty valuable, but I digress.
It is, and especially where we live, that is valuable. But yeah, I think you're right. Those, have you ever heard of what is the organization that they actually teach entrepreneurship in high school?
Oh, I do know it's an acronym. Is it the one you're
Junior? Is it? Is it called Junior Achievement?
FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America.
Okay, that is a different one, but
it is different.
I think it's something like that. Junior Achievement.
I remember Junior Achievement. Yeah,
was that what it was? Was that the financial one? I can't remember. But anyway, it's they were available, but it was that's an elective or an after school
opt-in.
thing.
Yeah.
So, but I try to teach even my 10-year-old stepdaughter about when she gets a pot of cash, hey, we can start looking at investments. And she's 10, so it's hard for her to understand, but I'm I want her to have those fundamentals when she's because think about it, the younger you start of these things, the easier it is to retire when you're Steven's age.
Well, it's okay. So going back to your, I'm not retired, by the way. I'm working. We're on our way at some point, but it's still a grind. I will say though, you're right. And I started doing this with my kids. My daughter is the same age, and then I have Jack, who's 12. Setting up, they may not understand it, but if you can teach them how a Roth IRA works. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, but an individual retirement account. You can set up a custodial account for your kids. If you have an LLC, you can pay them too if they do some legitimate work for your LLC up to the IRA contribution. I think it's $8,000 or $7,000, whatever it is. It's tax-free money. Deposit it into the Roth IRA. That is retirement income for them. They can't touch it until they're 60 years old or whatever. But the purpose is you're letting that contributions grow tax-free for their entire life. So when they get to retirement, they can pull out that money tax-free because you paid with it after tax dollars. And they can take loans on it. They can withdraw from it if they keep it for after 5 years. There's so much strategy to these types of investment accounts. Even your HSA with health insurance, like you can invest your HSA money. So talking about compound interest, there's so many different vehicles that are out there that people just don't understand. And honestly, I'm almost 40 years old and I'm just learning about this stuff because it goes back to our point, like no one teaches you this stuff when you're young. Yeah. So I think it's our responsibility to teach our kids because I want them to be as successful as I am at 50 at 25 or 30. So they get and just continue that generational knowledge.
So I want to know where Phil got it because like everything I've learned about Phil and just listening to the podcast. And then you were on another podcast, Phil, where I learned about your background. And I was like, man, this guy you just had that like switch at a young age that you just were driven and you knew the direction you wanted to go. And I was like,
awareness. You're just in tune. Yeah.
No, I don't know if it was that, and this is your show, Eric. But
so we're not allowed to talk about you.
I don't think I got any of that. That's what's funny is we didn't learn about any of this. But what we were taught as a young age is actually, which goes against compounding interest, just kind of like work hard, be kind to people, and those are the two fundamentals that I got that were unbelievably helpful. And then you go through some tough things in an early life. I kind of got thrown into just figuring it out and you're kind of growing up without any of the guidance. And I don't know, I think it's kind of like how you found that book. You just unbelievably curious about how the world works and how human works. And you just keep pulling on the thread, which is what we're trying to do on this podcast. But yeah, we weren't taught any of it either, but we were taught that you do need to bring value to society and earn your money, but we didn't know what to do once you earn the money because it wasn't that much from our parents' perspective. And I think honestly, working how Steven and I wound up becoming friends, we've talked about it on the pod before. Bill had up on his whiteboard, my only goal for you is to be an asset to society. And it's like, if you are an asset to society, the market will typically pay you. And it's that stuck out as one of the kind of key learnings of, okay, I got to figure out how to be valuable in some way, and things will tend to work out. And there's a lot of details involved with that, but
I mean, whatever it was, I wish I would have had that switch at your young age when you started thinking that way. I mean, I guess there was some part of me, but I also was like, oh, but I want to go to the bar. Like I want to go have fun. And I think there's a lot of wasted time in like being a young man and chasing things that are not eye on the prize. You know what I mean?
Well, we're kindred spirits because that was a long learning process for me too, which is why I know so much about American Junkie.
Yeah, right. We had some fun in our 20s.
That was a slow lesson for me as well.
Well, we've probably crossed paths a number of times and not even known it. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I wasn't trying to go down a rabbit hole. I just wanted to say I was impressed. I mean, obviously both of you are very impressive people. And I'm like, hey, I wish I knew what I knew when I was your age.
Well, I'm gonna throw it right back at you. I think you're very impressive, and I know we're tooting our horns here, but you're one of the most genuine people, guys that I've gotten to know in the last 5-6 years. Just the way you give, man, like you're in a position where you feel like, you've let us stay in your place in Flagstaff. We went to Innings Fest together, a month and a half ago out here in Tempe. And you're like, dude, Steve, I got VIP tickets for you and you can meet the bands of I'm a huge Incubus fan. Incubus was headlining there and we didn't get a chance to meet Brendan Boyd, but it was like, you're like, hey, we're pulling out the stops. I'm like, dude, I'm like, you don't have to go this far. Like I'm enjoying myself right now. I'd be out there in the middle of the crowd, trying to beat the mad rush. But just with everything, you're always like, hey, whatever you need, if there's anything I can do for you. And you're like that with everyone that I've seen you come across. And so was that something that you've always had? Or did you just like later in life, you kind of felt like I want to give back more, or were you always this way?
I've not ever even thought about it, but no, I was not. I was not that way, and I don't know where. It was probably my wife. I don't know.
Yeah, Jamie. So we got to bring her up on the pod. Jamie's my business partner, obviously. So you guys are married. You got married, what, 5-6 years ago now?
Actually, we're only up on year 3.
Year 3.
October will be year 3. Yeah.
Okay.
What if I didn't know the answer to that though? That would have
well,
been
see, that was a test.
Well, that's why we have an editor. That's why we have an editor.
She said, "Ask him how long we've been married, and I'll see if he gets it right." No, so Jamie, my business partner, obviously in the payroll business, we all kind of met about the same time, and then and then obviously you guys got together and married 3 years, and beautiful family that you're raising over there. But yeah, you guys are just two of the greatest people, and a huge. I'm very blessed to have you both in my life, and you're just very genuine. And so I was just curious, like, was that something that, as you said, is that something that Jamie helped you with, or is that something that you've always been like?
I don't know. There was something. I'd never been married, so I was just somebody that it wasn't that I didn't want to. It just didn't happen, and I wasn't pushing it, and then I met her, and it was just like, oh, this is why people get married, like because they met like that perfect soulmate person, and she just was that. And I'm telling you, like, it just changed everything for me because you know how well I don't know your backstory, but you know how like there's gaps in your based on how you grew up, right? So you have some experiences, Phil, and you're like, there's like these missing pieces that you don't really identify at a young age, but you start to identify as you get older. And I was like, I don't know. We got married, and I'm like, okay, we are one unit now, and like I'm gung ho, 100%. Like that is my person, like ride or die. And I'm like, I am so lucky I waited because I was
better late than ever. That's awesome. That's incredible.
I'm just cracking up because I don't know why Steven hadn't gotten us together earlier, because it was the same boat. I had kind of, and I think it was because of my upbringing, I was kind of like, I don't know about marriage. My parents struggled, and then they passed away early, and you build this programming that you don't even know you have. And I was the same way. I was like, I don't think marriage, I'll just figure this thing out. And then someone comes into your life and you're like, oh, this is what a partnership is. This is what my parents actually had just because they had a certain situation. And then you realize, oh, this is why everyone gets married, because it's someone you can do life with and get better with and fill those blind spots that you didn't even know existed. So I couldn't have agreed more with what you just said there. Steven just got it done early. He found his partner in crime early. So.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. And Kim is amazing. But I also, in compliment to Steven, because, business partnerships are never easy, right? I've never seen a more easy business partnership than Journey Payroll with Steven and Jamie. Like, they just worked together so well, and they had a long history together with ADP before that. And I was like, it's funny, like, people come home and complain to their spouses about this and that, and I'm like, that's never happened. Like, you guys are awesome together. You guys have built an amazing company, and like that's a great partnership too. Different partnership, but great partnership.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Yeah, she's amazing to work with, and I mean, I think helped that we knew each other. And Phil, we all got hired the same year at Master Tax. I don't know if you realize that.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah,
we used to bug Jamie all the time in the office. She'd have to do demonstrations for Steven. Those were way back.
Dude, we were baby. I mean, Phil was 21. I was 22. I mean, we were all in our 20s. So it was ridiculous.
Figuring out corporate life.
Yeah,
you're honestly just a big pain in Jamie's butt.
Probably, yeah.
She's like, can you
probably annoyed the shit out of her back then.
So I can get some work done.
And by the way, I do not know how big your podcast is now, but I was with my family before I came over for the call, and I was like, hey, I'm going to do this podcast. Oh, you're doing a podcast? What's the podcast? SuccessFlow. My nephew is one of your subscribers. Is that crazy or what?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know how, you guys are at like 2 million now?
Somewhere around there. Yeah. So he's 2 million one.
Somewhere there. 2 million one.
All right. So I did want to ask you, when we were at Innings Fest, like, obviously, your way around festivals and concerts, and you act like you own the place and you're just comfortable in that environment. You've done Coachella. I'm pretty sure you've done Burning Man. Is that right? You've done never Burning Man. Okay. But you've done a lot of really cool things like that. So what got you into, and even in your place in Flagstaff, you had pictures with all sorts of musicians and celebrity, and like, you've done some really cool things. So how did you get involved with the entertainment side of things? Talk about that a little bit.
So that came from, actually, it was because of American Junkie. I believe. Look, I can't remember where the introduction came from, but there was. Do you remember? You guys are what, about 38, 39?
39, yeah.
Right there.
Do you remember a band by the name of Swayze?
Oh, yeah.
So Tequila and Lime.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking
Throne
of.
and Lime or whatever. Yeah.
Throne and Lime, yeah.
So I don't even remember. Somehow I got linked up with those guys, and they were doing a second album, and they were looking for an investor, and so like that was like a jump to. You know what? It's funny because I lived in LA for a little while, but like kept my house in Tempe. So this is what I'm talking about, Phil. Lack of focus. I'm like, I have this bar, and I've got the rental properties, and then I'm messing around in LA, like trying to figure something out there, like. Probably watching too much of that. What was that show Mark Wahlberg made? The TV show Entourage.
Oh, Entourage!
Yeah, Entourage,
a great show.
So just getting mixed up in that, and then I was introduced to somebody that was doing films, and they were looking for an investor. And so anyway, all of it's like tied into entertainment. All of which was just a playground and not a moneymaker. Probably a lot of wasted time, but I got to meet some cool people along the way.
It's all the sexy stuff: real estate, media, entertainment. It's living the dream.
Like you were talking about on one of your earlier podcasts, you talked about Dan from Imagine Dragons, and I was like, "Oh, cool!" Yeah. Like I shouldn't say like no, but met him very early on in his career, and just watched that trajectory, and I was like, "Wow, what an amazing like flight that guy's had." And he's a really interesting person too.
And it makes you think about how many, every time I see a success story like that, I always wonder, and I do the same thing with sports. It's like all the amount of talent that is out there waiting for the moment where they're going to be seen and it goes parabolic. Like how much talent is out there still just waiting for that moment? Maybe never discovered.
Yeah.
Wrong. Like same thing with sports. And it's just like being ready for that time and making sure that like your skills and your gift is going to be discovered and you're putting yourself in those places is kind of what you're describing there about handing kind of everything while you're figuring out what you actually wanted to do and where you wanted to bring value back to that talk.
Yeah. And I think I would have enjoyed that route. But to Steven's earlier point, lack of focus and not saying this is exactly what I want to do. I'm going to commit 100% to it. And I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep going until I get what I want. And there's great stories like Danny DeVito and the guy from The Office, Steve Carell, that they were just going on auditions. And I think Steve Carell was working as a waiter in his 40s before he had a career. And you're like, they just never gave up, right? Like,
yeah,
you would not think Danny DeVito didn't have but he very long time before he found success, and you go, yeah, they just committed to it no matter what. And you're like, I'm sure at 42, you're like, maybe I should do something else. But
there's a ton of stories like that, and you hear like even you see on social media, you see all these young people who are wealthy and millionaires and all this stuff. But you look at like the average age of a millionaire and people making like their first sign of wealth, and it's like well over their 40s into their 50s. Like majority of people aren't hitting that when they're young, and the perception is unreal. And so it's that like, hey, like after year one, you don't get it, like, go another year, and then if it doesn't align, you got to pivot and do something else and do that. But I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. Like there's a lot of tip of the iceberg stuff that people see and they don't realize the work that is required to get there. But I did want to pick your brain on some of the some of the people that you met, and you don't have to gossip or rat anyone out, but was there two sides of this? Was there someone that you were just like, wow, I'm like so surprised and super impressed with this person. I did not think they would be this way. And then on the flip side, negatively, you thought they were going to be cool and they just were like, wow, I would be okay never seeing this person again.
I have a lot of those stories actually. This is one of those that this might not be as much of a conundrum to you because you're about, 10 years younger than I am, but I was at it was the Vanity Fair after party for the Oscars. And I'm like, I go up to the bar and I'm like, on my left side is Elton John and on my right side is Harrison Ford. And I'm like, love this guy's music, grew up on all of this guy's movies, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, like all these things. And I'm like, but this guy writes songs like nobody. And I'm like, okay, this guy's going to die sooner because he's bigger. And this guy will still be around. So I'm like, okay, I got to talk to Elton John. So like that, meeting Elton John, and then the fact that he was so nice and friendly, on top of the fact that like very recognizable, legend at this point, and he's still alive. But just, I was like, I really appreciate what you do with all the charities and the foundations that you do on top of your music. Because sometimes they don't want to talk about like, Rocket Man meant so much to me, because they've heard it 7 million times. And he said, what? He's like, a handsome man. And he gives me a hug. And I'm like, I just got a hug from Elton John, and a really cool picture too. But he was more interested in what I did. And I'm like, who at that level would ever just say, hey, I'm interested in you. Just how important. Awesome. I just made me feel really big, And I'm like, it was a good lesson in like, hey, that's a if he can do it, I can do that, right? Like I can be very genuine with people, and it's probably more interesting to talk about other people at his level anyway. But so anyway, that was that, and Bono from U2. Do you guys might not be a band you like?
He's my wife's hometown. He goes to the pub up at the Summit where Steven's been in Howth, Ireland.
Wait, what's the name of the bar?
The Summit Inn Tavern.
Doesn't he own the hotel, or the Edge owns it? Like that is attached to it?
There used to be a little inn. I don't know if he owns it or not. There was a nightclub in it too at one point, but anyway.
Oh, okay. But anyway, he was the same way, just incredibly like, hey, this is such a big moment for me. And he just wanted to know about me. Tell me about you. What do you do? And I'm like, nothing compared to you, like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I snuck in this party and I shouldn't even be here, but I'm talking to Bono.
You are a master magician, or ninja, if you will, when you talk about an event. Like you just walk in, like you own, like, my wristband, it's in my back pocket, or if anyone, you just keep walking and you get people in.
Yeah, that was a thing that I did a lot of, because it was more for the fun of it. Like there was a time where it was like necessity to climb a wall to go to a show, but it became more, hey, this is just fun, and we don't have to do a deep dive on that.
just pretend that everything is American Junkie, and you can just walk right in.
But I will say I urinated next to Bruce Willis at that party too. So that's impressive.
Sounds like it was a very good time. But I think you bring up like one of the good concepts of like if you want to be interesting, be interested, or be interested, not interesting, because we've all been around people that are just focused on I am going to be interesting, and it puts everyone off. Like it's a universal law. It's that put yourself in other people's shoes and really genuine curiosity. How does this human operate? And that's when some of the best magic happens in regard to human interaction, in my opinion.
And I think you're absolutely right. I think I'm more astounded by it because like those two people to me are people that could not walk down the street without just being accosted all the time. So they're so separated from the realities of day-to-day life that the fact that they just had any interest in just some random guy that walked up to say hello and talk to him about, I mean, to be honest, they do like talking about their charities more than they like talking about their music. And all of the people at that level have charities. So if you ever have an opportunity, hey, I really appreciate what you do for Wikipedia says your charity is this. But seriously, like when you meet Dan Reynolds, like find out what his charity is and say, I really appreciate all the things you do for that.
Yeah. Hopefully I mean, it's a testament to them too. Like they're more focused on the giving back piece than their own stuff, their music and all that. And they're at obviously an elite level in terms of what people perceive as success. And, but it's interesting, right? Because they may not sometimes feel successful. Everyone has their own perception of it. We all know success and failure, it's all temporary. And it's just like, how do you go about your day to have the best day ever? I mean, we talked about this more recently on the podcast. Is like, instead of trying to think about striving for ultimate success down the road, like, well, why don't you just figure out what your best day looks like and just try to do that every day, whatever that is. And so I'd be curious, what is putting you on the spot? What does your best day look like? You may not have exact activities, but like, how do you feel? What are you doing? What's life like for your best day?
At my current
today, right now, yeah.
It would be get up, take the dog out for an hour, half hour, whatever you can handle. Bring him home, go for a run. And by the way, we have to run a half marathon together. Go for a run, read for an hour, and then just hang out with Jamie, watching TV or chatting. Like, we always have really good conversations. Like, so I don't, it's funny because I'm probably the oldest person you've ever interviewed. And I'm like,
we had my dad on, Erik. I don't think you know.
Oh, you did? I haven't heard that episode. So
But no, it's a good point though, because your best day changes, and it seems like it changes everybody. You know, you grow in life, and if your best day today is the same as it was 10 years ago, then that might not be a good thing.
Yeah. And so, Phil, you might not know this, Stephen, and you probably may not even remember this, but 3 days after I got married, I had a stroke and was hospitalized.
Yeah, I remember that.
4 days. And it was, I'm not saying that there was a switch at that point, but at that point you go like, you know, what do I have? Like, I could be gone tomorrow. Like, what does matter? And at that point, like, I didn't have to chase. I don't have to own a professional football team, right? Like, I don't need all the resources in the world anymore. Like, I have a nice place in the world, and I'm very content there. And I think that, I'm not saying I don't have drives or interests, because I am, like Phil, a very curious person, and I'm always trying to learn new things, which is what drove me to your podcast, and the fact that I'd never listened to a podcast where I've enjoyed every episode, and that's yours. And I'm not trying to you can cut that if you want, but like, I've literally listened to every episode. I listened to it for a week straight last week, and I didn't get bored. I didn't like zone out. Like, I'm in the car, I'm listening to it, and I'm like, you have great guests on. Like, I always feel very positive after I listen to it. And I'm like, and it's opened me up to like, oh yeah, maybe I should be working out more, right? Like, I should be doing these things that probably would create some longevity. But after having a stroke, you go, oh yeah, I might have 6 months, I might have 50 years, but I whatever that is, like, I definitely am not chasing like financial things at this point. I'm just like, hey, I really love the woman I'm with. I love our family. Like, that's where I'm spending my time. And that's probably not the most exciting thing for SuccessFlow, but when you're in your 50s, you might say, oh yeah, remember that guy that died of the stroke the day after you did the podcast?
Dude, you beat yourself up too much, man. This is awesome.
You said something there that is so awesome, and it just caught me last week on a separate podcast, but the concept of enough. And we're in this society that more is better. We're all striving and trying to make a dent on the universe and aggregate resources, as you said. But this concept of enough, you don't hear it that often. It's, oh yeah, I've even folks that have made it, that the amount of peace that brings, and that a conversation with your wife after a day spent outdoors is really the thing. That is so great to hear, and the way you put it was so authentic. It's almost like Erik had the key to the closing question that we usually give Steve.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows it's coming.
Well,
you know what? I think I do know. I think I do know the question.
Well, yeah, this is a quick. When Jamie listens to this, she better be watching YouTube, because she's going to see that massive grin that you have on your face. Because of the life that you guys have built, and you can see it, man. You can see it in your eyes. You can see it in everything that you're doing. And like, you're really just finding, or have found, alignment in what makes you the happiest. And that's all you're focused on. It's not the chase of anything else that it was before, perhaps, but now it's like, I've got this amazing thing going on right now, and this is all I want to do. And that's like pure bliss. That's happiness.
And there's that. I've never analyzed it, but there is something to her and me like stopping being a moron that went hand in hand, where I'm like, not being a moron, that's not right.
Well, they say married men live longer for a reason. I believe that's true.
But it was like that whole thing about like, oh, I would push stuff just to see what I could get away with. And when I say that, I'm talking about like, oh, I'm going to get backstage and meet this band or that stage, even if I didn't have the credentials to do it. And I would inevitably figure out a way to do it with a walkie-talkie and a headset and a security jacket. Like I just would put the pieces together, and I'm like, whatever that was, like disappeared. I'm like, none of that mattered anymore. And I was like, so there was, at some point I should find out what it is, but I was like, there was some missing piece that like, once I met this person that just was, it's hard to describe, but it's just like this love that is, you both know her. I mean, she's just an amazingly good person. And I've never met anybody like that. So, and I did not do the podcast to sit here and talk about what an amazing wife I have, but she is. So.
I love it. It hits so much home to me. And again, it's not finding your value in someone else or like achievement or adding. It's just, again, the way you put it, connecting the dots, removing the blind spots can make you realize how great life is. But now we got to get Jamie on. She's alluding.
I know she's a chicken. I've asked her a few times. We need to get her on.
It's funny. She wasn't listening to the podcast, and I think over time, like I've suggested, I've never pushed, but I was like, it's really good, Jamie. Like she had never even opened the door, and I don't know why. She's got her hands full, but she did. She started listening. So.
Well, podcasts are really personal, right? Like you only have so much time, and you have a rotating list of what comes in. So the fact that we made yours is big, but it's very interesting how podcasts are so personal to people who you're going to reach, just like a movie or a song. That part's pretty fascinating.
Well, she said she didn't know we were on Apple Podcasts. So for anyone listening to us on Spotify or YouTube, know that we are on Apple. Yeah.
That's a good one. No, she's in fact, she should come on. I don't know if it would. You guys basically know the same things, but I know she would get a lot out of listening to it too, because it's when I have dips, listening to your podcast definitely lifts me. Like I feel better afterwards. So thank you.
Dude, that's awesome. That does mean a lot. That's great to hear. I do want to wrap up this episode with our question with every guest, and you probably, like we said earlier, know it's coming. But how would Erik Anderson define success? What does that look like for you?
Can I say one other thing before I answer that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, you guys talked about on an earlier episode the slope of enlightenment. Do you remember that?
The kind of trajectory of compound.
Yeah, like as you get older and learn more and consume information, like it helps your trajectory. And it was funny because I thought about that, and I was like, and I thought about the younger version of myself, and it was like the slope of entitlement versus the slope of so enlightenment versus entitlement. Yeah. Like when I was younger, I just deserved it, right? Like I deserve this, and I think that was a bad way to look at it. Like, no, you have to work for it, right? And it's like as your enlightenment goes up, your entitlement goes down. And I was like, it was the perfect metaphor for me when I thought about it. And I don't remember what episode it was, but it was somewhere in the first 32 episodes. But anyway, it really struck me. And I was like, that's so funny because I've become a better person as I've gotten older because like you learn more, and then like that jerky side that I don't think either of you ever had, but that I did, like kind of goes away, right?
It's connecting dots, right? It's so spot on. It's like as you get older, and it just comes with time, repetitions, and you're building out a data set in your life on when I did this happened, and then you're like, oh, that's why. That's funny. I think we'll have to refresh that episode too, Stephen, and go back. Yeah,
every now and then we'll do a replay episode.
I don't remember which one it was because I listened to so many. But okay, so success to me today is I look at, in the older you get, the less friends you have because your family's like all the kids and all that stuff takes over. But like, I look at, and I've done this for a long time, the 10 closest people to me, my wife, my child, my family, like extended family, my friends, and I go, like, am I adding value to their lives, right? Like, am I constantly trying to make sure I'm adding value to them, and vice versa? Are they to me? And like, when you look, if you just take those 10 people, and you guys probably have 30 because you guys are so connected all over, but you look at that and you go, like, because you only have so much time in the day, and you go, those are the relationships I want to nurture. And success to me is when I look at those 10 people and I go, yeah, that's a really good group of solid friends that, and it doesn't mean that, because there's also ones where you should eliminate them, I think, too, right?
Yeah.
Like ones that, and not that they're bad, it's just maybe you're on a different track now and they're still going this way. And it doesn't mean that when your friends are in need, you don't help them out, but you just want to make sure that the people in that group are not pulling you a bad direction, right? Like that, and vice versa. Like, be a good friend, be good. Assets, not asshats.
Love you. I like assets, not asshats. I love it.
That's a terrible word. You can.
that was a good answer, though. I mean, I've heard, funeral, as morbid as it sounds, funeral worthy relationships. Like, who are you hanging out with that would show up to your funeral? And if there's people that are in your world and in your life that probably wouldn't, then why are you giving them the time of your day, right? And so it's like finding the closest, building those close relationships. I don't think we've had anyone really touch on the relationship side of thing, Phil, to answering how they feel about success, and that was a really good answer.
But really, that's what you're all about. That you guys are all about relationships.
Yeah,
it's just like, Phil said it several times on this call, like that, like having those bonds, those deep connections with people is. I'd rather have 10 of those than 50 like light touches, right? Where
totally, it's the close first casual, and you want to hone in on those close ones for sure, and eliminating, like you said, sometimes you have to. You're growing in a different direction, and that's okay.
I have to figure out who I got to kick out though, because now you guys are in the top 10. So
we're getting together after this. We gotta get in person, extend this conversation.
Yeah, Erik, I know you got a wedding to go to this weekend. Congrats to your nephew. It's exciting. You guys are going to have a great weekend. Thanks for hopping on the podcast, man. Thanks for being a fan and a listener and sharing it. I know, we've talked about it a lot, but it was really cool getting to know you even better. I learned some things in this last hour. So thanks for being open and vulnerable and sharing your story.
Yeah, and I know you guys have a long list of people. So thank you for, taking a break from your serious people and bringing somebody on that was like, what was that all about?
Dude, you don't give yourself enough credit.
No, you don't.
You're a very successful man and very genuine. We appreciate you. So
well, thanks again, guys, and look forward to. I want to get caught up to those 100 and whatever, and then I can just listen weekly instead of like
binge listening. Yeah,
12 a week. Yeah. So thanks again, guys. Have a great afternoon, and look forward to seeing you in my top 10.
Thank you.
I love it. Well, anyone listening, feel free to subscribe, follow Spotify, Apple, YouTube. You know the drill. We'll be back at you next week.